Now with water changes, when you bring a water sample down to the shop on a semi-regular basis, I would want you to bring a water sample and a little video of the tank running, including any bits and pieces you've got for the aquarium, anytime you get new fish, and about every 3 months just for no reason. Because what we'll do is monitor your phosphate and nitrate levels, because your ammonia is first-degree fish waste, which will get broken down by the bacteria in the filter into nitrite. Then your nitrite is second-degree fish waste. That will get broken down by the bacteria in the filter into nitrate. And then the nitrate will slowly build up, and that will be the reason for water changes. Now, if you have lots of fish, you must expect that you're going to do more water changes. If you don't have a lot of fish, you don't need to do as many water changes. But as far as the quality of food is a massive impact. And when you do a water change, I don't want you changing too much water. You don't want to shock the fish. And you make sure you use a gravel cleaner when you do a water change, because we want to be pulling any sediment out of the gravel while we're cleaning the water. But once again, if you bring us a water sample on a semi-regular basis, even if it's several times a year, we can test it. We can tell you if whatever you're doing is working. Because I love using polyfilter underneath the pump, because it's really important that the pump doesn't vibrate on anything, or you will hear a vibrating sound. So putting it on the polyfilter is a good thing. And then what we got to do now is slowly turn this down, then wait an hour, then turn it down and wait an hour to make sure that the plumbing is running as quietly as possible. And all in all, it actually is very quiet. So these Aqua One wave makers can sure whack out a hell of a wave. So you can just play with the settings here and see how long the wave is going to run, and you can set how powerful the wave is going to be just by playing around with this knob, so that you're happy with what's going on. If you like this sort of surfs up look, that's fine. If not, then by all means you can just turn it down. The thing to comment on too is water clarity. Right now, the chlorine levels of our tap water is assumably low, because what happens is Sydney tap water doses the tap water to a maximum minimum level. So what can happen is when the chlorine is low, you can often get this like white bacteria that grows in the water. This is absolutely harmless to the fish, and it doesn't tend to stay around, because once you've got good bacteria in the filter, then you'll find that the bacteria in the water really isn't able to establish. If it's a brand new aquarium, and lately all the aquariums I've been setting up have gone cloudy, it's no problem, it does clear. So once all the good bacteria forms in the filter, it will eventually outcompete the bacteria that grows in the water, and then the water will be absolutely crystal clear. Once the good bacteria is in the filter, then even if you do a water change and you get bacteria in the water, then your tank will still stay clear. It's usually brand new when this is going to happen. Or if you do something silly, like feed the fish too much, that's the sort of thing when this thing will happen. So once again, Sydney tap water lets the chlorine level go down. Then when they start to get pathogens in the water, they give it a full dose. Whereas back in the old days, they used to just keep a constant amount of chlorine in the water, but then they started to find that the bugs started getting used to the chlorine, and then they'd have to add more chlorine. And because chlorine's expensive, and it's actually not that good for us, that's not what they do anymore. Just be aware that it's often shocking for people that first get an aquarium how much evaporation actually occurs. So what's going to happen is the top never evaporates, the bottom evaporates, because the water goes down to the bottom. So then as the water falls in this sump, if you hear a sound going, that's the pump sucking air. That means that you should have really filled it up. So you just get some water, get a 20-litre bucket, add some water ager to the water, tip it in the tank. It will then go down there. It will fill it back up again. But the thing that you need to be aware of is you need to have enough water in the bottom, so when your pumps turn off, the water stays in the sump. So as a habit, it's much better to fill the tank up when the sump's off. It's also great that this here has got a switch, because sometimes I like to kill all of the power, therefore I don't ever forget to plug things back in again when I'm doing my maintenance. It's really important that the biomedia, such as the marine pure block there, is never cleaned in tap water, because the chlorine in the tap water can kill the good bacteria. We do want to replace the filter socks when they're looking dirty, and every now and then I'd get a fine net and just scoop out any sediment that might build up at the bottom there. And in the future, we could consider engaging the auto top-up if you did so require. So in a few days, if you can head down the shop, take a water sample and a video. With the video, we want to see everything going on with the aquarium. We want to see what's going on in the aquarium. We want to see any bits and pieces you've got for the aquarium in the video. And then you bring us a water sample. We make sure everything's okay. Then you get a small amount of fish. It's very common that those fish are going to hide a fair bit because they're going to wonder where the hell everyone else is. Then in a week or two, preferably 2 weeks, come down with another water sample and a video. If everything's okay, we can add a little bit more fish. But the idea is to put the fish in slowly because we want the bacteria building in the filter slowly. And then never buy fish unless we've tested the water and made sure that the water's okay. And then I tend not to want to feed for 2 days after adding new fish. Then when you do feed, I prefer one person in the family feeds. And then the primary food that I'd like to see fed for this tank is Spectrum's probiotic. Now, the reason why I love Spectrum's probiotic is it has this probiotic bacteria in the food, which means when the fish poo, the bacteria in the poo eats the poo. And I find the tanks just stay so much cleaner when you've got that food. The other thing is that Spectrum's probiotic is a cold extruded food, so it's not a pressure cooked processed food. So you are getting the nutrients and you'll find you don't need to feed much of it. But I also like to supplement with some Denichi color. At least once a week, I'd want to feed them some Denichi color because I find that Denichi color is absolutely amazing to bring out the color and shape and health and so forth. So I also like a little bit of frozen every now and then just as a treat. But my two main foods that I'm wanting to feed is probiotics and Denichi color. And other than that, you're going to be watching the belly of the fish. So if you look at under the gill plate to the anus, if there's a little bit of a belly, then that's great. Then over time, if you see a fat belly, then whatever you're doing, you need to do less. If you go from the gill plate to the anus and it goes up at all, then whatever you're doing, you need to do more. But you also need to be aware that some fish food floats, some fish food sinks. Some fish food's big, some fish food's small. So if you bring a sample of water and a video to the shop, we can look at your fish and we can go, hey, all your little fish are skinny. How about you get some smaller pellets? Or all your big fish are skinny, but your little fish are okay. So how about you add some bigger pellets? Or your bottom fish are skinny and your top fish are okay. So how about you add some sinking pellets? So according to what fish are skinny, we might add a different food that's going to favor those particular fish. And ultimately, your job is to watch the fish, make sure all the food's eaten in 30 seconds. Then use that as a guide. And then you're watching the belly of the fish. And over a month or so, if it starts getting skinnier, you need to do something about it. So you just need to be aware that the condition of your fish today is exactly equal to the water quality and nutrients last month. And then the condition of your fish in a month is exactly equal to the water quality and nutrients of your fish now. That's basically how it works. Then when you bring a water sample down, if there's ammonia or nitrite, we'll send you home and tell you to add some bacteria. And also the prime will detoxify ammonia, nitrite, nitrate. So it does not get rid of it, but it detoxifies this waste. So the waste should not kill the fish. So if you dose that every day or so at a 5 times dose, you can use that to cheat and you can use that to detoxify the waste that's in the water. And then if you get nitrate or phosphate, we're going to tell you to do water changes more often. And when you do your gravel cleaner for your water change, it's like a thick tube connected to a thin tube. If your gravel's dirty, then you need to be changing water more often. If your gravel's not that dirty, then you're probably going all right. So we can guide you through all of this. If your lights are on too much, you're going to get too much algae. And then the next thing is understanding the personality of the fish. So after initially where they all hide a fair bit, then eventually they'll get to know you and they'll interact with you and they'll realize that you're where the food comes from, so they'll like you, hopefully. And then what's going to happen next is that you're going to get a boss. Now with the cichlids, They're highly intelligent fish. And this one's friends with this one, and this one hates that one, and this one's allowed in that one's house, and that one's not allowed in that one's house because this guy doesn't like that guy. And it's unbelievable. You'll sound like a lunatic when you're talking about the personalities of your fish. And your job is to watch it. Now, you got to realize that you don't have control over your aquarium, but you do. You sort of have ultimate control, because if you notice the boss giving everyone a chase, then that's good, because that's a nice dominant boss. If the boss is picking an individual and just knocking it all the time, eventually he might kill it. And so if you see Hitler running your country, then it's probably a good idea to get him out. You've got two options with Hitler. You can either take him out, bring him back down the shop, or you put a bigger fish in, because Hitler's usually only a problem if he's the dominant fish, because it's very common that the dominant fish will stop other fish fighting because he likes the hierarchy the way it is. So you're not allowed to add any fish that can fit in the mouth of the biggest fish, or they might eat it. And then you watch their personalities, and if everyone's getting along, that's cool. But the other thing to realize is that as you're stocking the tank up, if there's not many fish, they tend to stress more, and they tend to be more territorial, and they tend to be more aggressive. If you get more fish, then you're not getting only child syndrome. And when there's more fish, the fish feel more relaxed, and they don't feel that there's danger. Because in the wild, they're very heavily populated. They're very densely busy, active fish. So they need to be in a densely busy, active environment. Otherwise, they can become aggressive. So if everyone's getting along, that's cool. If you notice an individual bashing another individual, you need to let us know. And then if you see the boss giving everyone a hurry up, that's good. If you see him targeting an individual, then maybe something needs to be done about it. So once again, whatever you see going on, take a sample of water and a video, come down and see us at the shop, and we can just advise you. And at the end of the day, how well all your fish get along is pretty much governed by who your boss is. If you have a good boss, your tank will be great. If you have Adolf Hitler run your country, then it's not always so fun.